Going? Welcome. My name is Dean Graves, and I'm one of the co-founders of Prima Healing Meditation. What we're doing here tonight is very simply continuing the sharing of information that I've been getting from my higher self. This series is regarding the human vibration, and the human vibration is all couched towards our efforts to work towards enlightenment, raise our consciousness, or achieve a higher degree of healing, all the same thing. Tonight we're going to be talking about the structure of the human energy system, and that's a little bit deceiving because it's not just the human energy system. All the systems of all living beings is essentially the same. We have a particular interest in the human energy system, presumably because we're human. And so that's why the focus on human energy system. To begin, a lot of you may be familiar with, if not you'll be more familiar with by the time we finish this, and I apologize beforehand. Most of you know the limitations of my drawing skills, so anything that I'm trying to draw that doesn't look clear, raise your hand and say, could you do something with that? And I'll do what I can to make it more understandable or clear. Okay, this is a man. I was teaching a class one night and I was using a stick man to do this. And a woman was sitting right in front of me, and the more I drew, the more perplexed a look that she got on her face. And so when I got through, I asked her, you know, did I not explain something well? And she's looking at this figure, and I mentioned stick man. She said, oh, that's a stick man. And it all fell into place for her. So I'm not embarrassed by that. Just, you know, raise your hand and go with it. What I am illustrating for you here is the basic 7 chakra energy system that we all have and that all life has. In each of these, and that's 8, we call it a 7 chakra system because there are 7 chakras within our body. But it's actually an 8 chakra system, and this is the 8th chakra, which is about 2 inches above our head. And we'll come back to the importance of the chakras because that's down the road a little bit, but I wanted to show you this, and I'm going to leave it up here so you can refer to it. The 8th chakra is the focal point of what we're going to talk about tonight. This is one of our 9 energy systems. The chakra system is one of our 9 energy systems. The other system, this deals with spirituality. The other system that deals with spirituality is our aura. And our aura is intricately involved and interlaced with the function of the chakra. The other 7 systems that we have are all related to physicality, to our body. And when we die, we lose those. They stay with the body. These are with us from the time that we begin our evolutionary process until the time we finish our evolutionary process. So these are the ones that we're going to be most concerned with, because these are the ones that we have to work with in order to raise our consciousness, heal, and work towards enlightenment. This system right here is tied to and overlays and this is, I'm going to draw, and just to warn you. Hey, David.
Hello.
You've missed all my warnings about my drawing abilities, David, so you're on your own. Okay, these are supposed to be tetrahedrons. Now, a tetrahedron is a three-sided pyramid. It's a three-sided triangle. But I'm not going to even try to draw a dimensional tetrahedron, and you're just going to have to understand that this is a three-sided mechanism here. Now, this underlays our chakras. In other words, this is superimposed over our double tetrahedron. The double tetrahedron is significant because the third angle on what we will reference as the top tetrahedron protrudes one way, the same thing protrudes the other way. So they're backed up to each other. Okay, is that clear as mud? Okay. Now the significance of that is one of these is male and one of these is female. Only by polarity. It has nothing to do with sexual gender. It has to do with the polarity. Male is positively polarized and female is negatively polarized. And again, it is a magnetic or an electronic electrical polarity, not a sexual polarity as we perceive it to be. The male faces one way, and there's not really an up or a down. That is, for our purposes, that's a linear thought that we're having. So there's no up and down. But we'll illustrate the male tetrahedron here and the female tetrahedron here. And by design, the male tetrahedron faces this way, the female tetrahedron faces the other way. Okay? Now, these tetrahedrons are important. If you remember in the series that we did in the fall, and I'll review just briefly for those of you that didn't get a chance to attend that, what we call our DNA is actually coding. It just manifests in physical form in what we identify as DNA. And in our DNA allocation, we have 64 strands of DNA total. And science, in their infinite wisdom, has determined that we have 20 strands of DNA activated, and the other 44 are junk DNA that we apparently used to use when we were more primitive. Well, it's just the reverse of that. The DNA is actually allocated according to our level of consciousness. So we have been stuck with 24 strands of DNA for a long time, thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And what that means, in first density, we have 8 strands of DNA allocated to us, and that determines our range of consciousness. And second density, first density is essentially inorganic matter. Organic matter is second density, higher plant and animal life. We are in third density. So we have a range in third density of between 17 and 24 strands of DNA available to us to be activated. We were stuck in the middle of that range forever, 20 strands of DNA. Last May 6th, we had 2 strands of DNA artificially activated for everybody, which brought us up to 22 strands of DNA. On December 21st, we had the last 2 strands in our level of consciousness activated for us, which brought us up to the top of the potential for third density. Now, again, that in and of itself is just capacity. We have to work in order to fill that capacity with consciousness. And that also is being artificially generated for us, but we still have to do the work. It's not a matter of it just magically appearing for us. We still have to do the work to fill that capacity for additional consciousness. Okay? Now, how that translates is this formation, what determines this formation is our DNA activation. In other words, with 24 strands of DNA in third density, this is the configuration and the overlay that we get. In second density, this looked more like that. In other words, a significant more of an overlay of the two tetrahedrons. In first density, where we began, it looked like that. So they were completely overlaid. This is where we began. And if you think of this in terms of physicality, this is the least spiritual mass and the greatest physicality. Inorganic matter. We have consciousness, but we don't have awareness. We move into second density, we have less physicality, we have more consciousness, but we're still not self-aware. Third density, we're less overlaid, and we have who we are. Okay? Now this continues to migrate as we evolve. As we move into fourth density, it looks like that. And the distinction between the male and the male pointing one way and the female pointing the other way, align. So the two double tetrahedrons align this way, and the protrusion aligns also. We still maintain the polarity, but they're much more united. Now what happens also in fourth density is, if you remember from our series in the fall, those of us that are muggles are actually divided into 4 different beings. Okay? And as we migrate or graduate to fourth density, this tetrahedron changes configuration like this, and all 4 tetrahedrons merge into one. Okay? So essentially we get 4 times the consciousness by merging with our other counterparts. And it is the first time in our evolutionary process that we will be one unit again. And the thousands and millions of years that it's taken us to migrate up through first density, second density, and third density, this will be the first time that we are all together. But we are still very physical, relatively speaking. Okay? Have I lost anybody? Okay, don't be shy. Raise your hand if I'm leaving stuff out or not making it clear enough. Our tetrahedrons continue to evolve in fifth density. In fifth density, the physicality begins to disappear. We become essentially very flexible physical. The structure of the tetrahedron dissolves, and we become much more light. We're much more electric than physical. Okay? Continues to evolve again. As we move into sixth density, we become all light. So we become more expansive in our light. And if you recall, again, from the fall series, when we were talking about the different dimensions and what we do in fourth density, in fifth density, in sixth density. In fourth density, in our perspective here, we are in a limited linear lifespan. We perceive in a linear fashion that we actually create our life from day to day. We invent what we do. Okay, and we know from the presentation on the time sequencing that actually our whole lives, all of our lives for the 76,000 years of experience in our third density experience are all laid out for us, and it's just a matter of us choosing which lifeline is going to provide us with the necessary experiences for us to heal and advance spiritually. Okay? In fourth density, we're much less physical, so our ability to cover and experience different parts of those same lifelines materializes. We change, the lifelines don't change. Time doesn't change. But we move into additional dimensions that permit us to move out of the limitations of perception here. We can move into time-space, and through that ability to move into time-space, we can move forward or backward on the timelines to get the experiences that we need in order to continue to heal, continue to advance, continue to raise our consciousness. In fifth density, since we are so fluid and so light, we experience all of those lifelines at the same time. And the lifelines are infinite in number. So instead of, in third density, as we perceive of things now, us taking it step by step, I'm in this life and I can experience in this lifeline the things that are happening in this lifeline. In fourth density, we gain additional consciousness, which gives us the capacity to experience pieces of lifelines that have segments that we need in order to heal and grow. Fifth density, we experience them all at the same time. Okay? Because we are nearly all light. In sixth density, we become light beings. We are light. We have no physicality other than what we, when sixth density appears to us, they appear as light. They appear as light beings. And when I say light beings, I mean looks pretty much like this guy. No facial definition, it's just light. It's just white light. Okay? Sixth density creates the lifelines. They create time. They create us. They create us beginning in first density. They create third density, second density, first density. All of that is created by sixth density. Seventh density, structure disappears everywhere. All structure disappears, and seventh density is everywhere. It's seventh density consciousness constructs that hold everything in place. So in other words, we're going to expand, say we're going to expand creation. And the way we expand creation is we'll go out and we'll set up what I call a franchise area, which will consist of 9 stars and related planets. And then sixth density comes in and begins creating experiences to take place on those planets. And a sixth density aspect of the Creator will occupy each of those 9 stars. Okay? But they are all light. Okay? That is how our structure is determined. Our DNA corresponds to that as well. As we move into fourth density, the range of fourth density is between 25 and 32 strands of DNA. Fifth density is from 33 to whatever 33 plus 8 is. And goes up until we hit seventh density. In seventh density, we are 64 strands of DNA fully activated. Fully activated. Okay? But that determines our structure. So as we evolve through the densities, we lose physicality. And those of you that are familiar with Eckhart Tolle's teachings, Eckhart Tolle's, the essence of all of his teachings, are the unattachment to physical. In the beginning of that, becoming aware of that, and beginning to do that is what we are doing in this level of consciousness. We are working to raise our level of consciousness sufficiently in order to recognize that and to begin to unattach from the physical. That is what we do in fourth density, is we, with greater awareness and greater capacity because of our higher consciousness, continue to work on unattaching from the physical. Fifth density, the same thing. We're unattaching from the physical. Sixth density is the last level that we're in any way attached to physicality. Seventh density is completely unattached from physicality. Okay? There is no physical structure that is part of seventh density. They create physical structure, but it's not part of seventh density. Okay? And a few nods there. Okay, so that is the relation, and that's how these are formed. This is how we are formed through the consciousness construct of the DNA that's allocated to our spirit. Okay? The tetrahedron that we enjoy at this time is hard to draw. But it's also on a slide. So as we progress, presumably it will be able to spread and move apart. We can go backwards too. We can lose consciousness. As we lose consciousness, it comes together. So it goes both ways. You can lose consciousness. It goes forwards and backwards. In moving towards seventh density, what we are doing is, by raising our consciousness, is we are becoming unattached to our linear thinking. In order to graduate to fourth density, our consciousness needs to be above 40%, or on David Hawkins' scale, 400, which is still very much in third density, but we have the capacity to do fourth density work. So the beginning of fourth density does not all of a sudden just magically, you know everything. You still have lots of work to do. Fourth density is not seventh density. There's lots of work to do in between those levels of consciousness. Okay? Now, what is keeping these things overlapping? What is keeping us in the physical is very simply emotional baggage. All the stuff that we have collected over our lifetime through experiences and stored within us. It is literally physical weight. The energy takes on physical mass as everything in our level of consciousness appears to do. And we carry these things around in this tetrahedron. Now, how it does this and the importance of these tetrahedrons, if you recall from the fall series also that I pointed out to you that the purpose of creation and the purpose that we are here is so that the Creator might know itself. Okay, and how that occurs is through the tetrahedrons. Each tetrahedron is divided into 9 smaller tetrahedrons. Make sure there's 9. Each one of these double tetrahedrons actually looks like this. The flow of energy, intelligent energy, which is what all of our physicality is created from, okay, flows from the female side to a female polarized entity from one through the first through the female or the negatively polarized tetrahedron, and then flows through the male tetrahedron. It's just the reverse for the male. For a male, that's what the polarization does. The male polarization, it will flow first through the male tetrahedron and then through the female tetrahedron. Now the other end, we have energy flowing up and we have energy flowing down. The energy that's considered to be flowing up is intelligent energy. relatively speaking, it's lower vibrating energy. What is flowing from above is intelligent infinity. Which is the Creator's unseparated energy. Okay? So, to a female polarized spirit, intelligent energy flows first through that tetrahedron and then up through the male tetrahedron. This is flowing all the time. Okay? But it's not recognized until we clear our energy enough in order for this to flow. What keeps it from flowing and what keeps this from flowing, intelligent energy from flowing cleanly, is the emotional baggage that we have collected. Really important to get rid of the emotional baggage. Okay? Because when we clear enough of the emotional baggage that this flow of energy can flow all the way through both tetrahedrons to the top and connect with this, permit this to flow all the way through, we connect our Kundalini. That is what the connection of our Kundalini is. We've cleared our emotional baggage sufficiently that the intelligent infinity can flow up and this can flow down, and we have clear flowing. This is flowing all the time, but it's blocked. Okay? Just like we put stoppers there. This flows all the time too, and it gets blocked as well. It'll get, for example, most of the population of the earth right now is stuck right here in the second chakra, orange ray energy. In other words, this energy can't go any higher than this, and intelligent infinity can't really even get into the game. So we remain in collectively remain in lower levels of consciousness. Now, the importance of the tetrahedron being divided into these smaller tetrahedrons, and what you have to understand, and I'm not going to try to draw this, these are deep within this tetrahedron or division of 9 tetrahedrons, and within those, a division of 9 tetrahedrons, and on and on and on and on and on. Okay? And the significance of these tetrahedrons is, if you recall, in earlier teachings, we were talking about the 9 aspects of the Creator, the 9 archetypes of the Creator. This tetrahedron is Saw. And I'm sure everybody remembers that Saw is awakening or awakenedness. Yeah, sure you did. Okay, this tetrahedron is Law, which is wisdom. This tetrahedron is Da, which is movement. This tetrahedron is Ta, and Ta is separation. This tetrahedron is Ra, which is love. This tetrahedron is Lucifer, which is unconsciousness. This tetrahedron is Yah, as some of you may know as Yahweh, which is unity. This tetrahedron is Ka, which is non-movement. This dude right here is Melchizedek. Melchizedek. My spell checker is working here tonight. Which is free will. Hi.
Hello.
Come on in. Grab a seat.
No, excuse me.
It's okay.
There's one down here.
All right.
Now, the way that the Creator the way that we experience things, and the way that the Creator experiences things, the way that all of the 9 aspects of the Creator experience things, is through the experiences that we have. Every time that we have an experience, like what we're experiencing right now, this moment, the energy is flowing through us. It enters, and this is going to get real messy, it enters in circulates around. It enters this side, circulates around, and exits up. Every aspect of the Creator has the opportunity to experience everything that we experience as we experience it. Which means every experience that we have, no matter how minute or how grand, is experienced by every aspect of the Creator from the perspective of its archetype. So it's not a matter of having the same experience within our energy system. Each aspect interprets that experience according to its archetypical foundation.
Dean, when we talk about experiences, it doesn't have to be, I know you said from small to big, but we're not talking about just, epiphanies or an encounter. It could be a pain.
Right this
It could
minute.
be, okay.
Right? Every instant of experience, every minute that we are alive is part of our experience.
Okay.
And it is experienced by every aspect of the Creator from its own perspective. Nothing is wasted. There is no downtime. It is a constant flow of energy. And all of this happens instantaneously, simultaneously.
Now you talk about even when we're asleep.
Yep.
So all of our dreams are being experienced as well?
Well, you're with your higher self for the most part when you're asleep. But yes, that's part of our experience. If you have a dream, it's part of your experience.
And I apologize if I missed this, but the tetrahedrons, are they in each of the chakras?
No, these overlay. These overlay. We have a double tetrahedron that creates the basis of our system. And the DNA structures and forms the tetrahedrons.
So it's the whole, all the way from there up?
On a female polarized entity, the top of that point is our 8th chakra. On the male, it's the same connection as just the other tetrahedron. Okay?
That makes a lot of sense.
Okay? So that's it. Now you know it all. There's a little bit more. But there's no experience that's wasted. There's no minute that's wasted. There's no iota of what we perceive to be time that's wasted. It's all experience for the Creator. It is in these that we store our emotional baggage. When we clear our emotional baggage, we have to clear it from all of those aspects. But not consciously. I mean, it just, we recognize it as vibrational range of energy or emotion and get rid of it. We don't have to identify it. But this is what is actually taking place. You're clearing from each perspective. And so that's why, you may think you've cleared fear, and then son of a gun, 6 months later, fear emerges again. And you got to clear that. It's because it's deep. And remember, these have tetrahedrons within tetrahedrons within tetrahedrons. The average muggle has 3,900 lives right now. Some have over 8,000 lives. You can get a lot of experience, a lot of emotional baggage in 8,000 lives. You can get a whole lot in 3,900 lives. But it's all a vibrational range of energy from a different perspective. And each perspective is one of the 9 aspects of the Creator. Now, I don't know, I know that in other logoses, our particular logos is defined as a 9 archetype logos. In other logoses, they range from 1 archetype to 32 archetypes. Now, I don't have any idea what structure, whether they're using a tetrahedron or not, but a 32 aspect tetrahedron, I just would imagine would be mind-boggling to try to clear. They obviously have more effective techniques than what we have. Well, they stay up a lot.
So the flow that you showed where it comes up and kind of goes around, it actually touches every...
Goes through every
part.
tetrahedron.
Okay.
And it goes through every sub-tetrahedron. And it does it all instantaneously.
Can we picture that kind of like a honeycomb? Where
You can, if that works for you, yeah.
there's something
Yeah.
in each.
Yeah, and they're all in, that's a good illustration. But they're all in tetrahedron shape, and there's the 9 aspects of the Creator is a unit. So all 9 aspects, in whatever level, experiences every experience that you experience. Okay? Okay, now how this all overlays with the chakras. Okay, our heart chakra. These are valves. That's all they are, is valves. They reduce or increase the flow of energy that functions at that vibrational range. All the exchange of energy that we do with the world around us is through the heart chakra. These interpret, but these do not exchange energy with the world around us. In the room right now, we are sending and receiving all of our energy through the heart chakra. All of it. The way that we do that is depending on how much emotional baggage that we are carrying. Okay? We identify that as being stored at this range of energy, this range of energy, this range of energy, and that's what these are, is vibrational ranges of energy. That's all these do. Okay? So, the first chakra is our base chakra. And essentially, it's the same for most everyone. A little variance, not much. This is basic survival. This is what is activated when we are in first density. Okay, if we're surviving, this one is functioning. If we've stored emotional baggage here, which we all have, and it can be stored from back when we were in first density, then we're attracting, this is magnetic, we're attracting that low vibrational energy. This is activated, this corresponds to second density, higher plant and animal life. In this level of consciousness, we are learning sensory interaction with other parts of ourself, essentially. We're one of 4 elements. We're atmosphere, water, earth, or fire. And if you recall, just as a little refresher, Fire is male. Water is male, female. Atmosphere is female, male. In Earth, is female. These, our placement in these, as we begin the evolutionary process, is arbitrary. In other words, everybody else stepped back and you became female, or everybody else stepped back and you became male. Your sixth density creator assigned an equal amount of energy to each of these four categories. Had to start off with an equal footing. But you start off with no emotional baggage. And then you are formed. You're put into first density. And as you're put into first density, you begin to convert, you begin to form gaseous material, and that gaseous material forms solids and yada yada yada. You know, what science looks at is how things are formed. But the assignment of which category that you fall in is completely arbitrary. So we need this much atmosphere, we need this much earth, we need this much water, and this much fire. And relatively speaking, it's in balance. Now the process is not to get from one end of the scale to the other. The process is to find balance in this polarity. And that's what we're doing by evolving. These are vibrational ranges of energy as well, which reflect themselves in the chakras. We have chakras and the tetrahedral system in each one of these as our spirit is formed. So this is a vibrational range of energy, is all that it is. And we label it as emotions so that we can deal with it. I mean, if you're very down and tearful one day, you just say, my energy is really low. Well, that's an accurate reflection because your energy is functioning off of these lower vibrational ranges. I mean, it is a real thing. But you can't say, I feel like a 4.5 today. It doesn't have the same meaning as I'm depressed, you know. So we give them names to label them. But what happens is when we exchange energy, if we are heavily burdened, and these three chakras are our emotional chakras. When we have these as heavily burdened, the energy that we send out through our heart chakra and the energy that we bring in through our heart chakra is magnetically attracted to these right here. So energy comes in, and the energy can be any energy. It can be the happiest energy that you can imagine. If it goes in here and you're heavily burdened down here, it's going down. You're going to attract out of that energy the lowest energy that is available. And so your experiences are going to be karmic. That's what karma is. You're projecting very low energy and consequently behaving according to how that energy vibrates. Your consciousness level. You're going to attract everything to you is going to go here and go down. You're going to send out everything from the bottom, from the emotions. You're going to be living in your emotions. You're going to be behaving because your consciousness is very low. You're going to be behaving as you would expect low vibrational energy to react. As you clear the emotional baggage, as you do the work to heal, your energy vibrational level comes up. These literally become clear. Those tetrahedrons become empty. They become available for other opportunities. And you begin, this corresponds right here to our level of consciousness. Third density corresponds directly to this chakra, which is a power chakra. It's the last level that we are intensely tied to physicality. As you raise your consciousness, as you're in these lower levels of consciousness, we perceive things in a linear fashion. A has to happen, before B has to happen, before C has to happen, and so forth. Okay? It's very limiting. It's very restricting. It's very difficult for us to understand that all this is taking place because, well, A, I didn't know A happened, so B and C and D couldn't have happened. And again, for the sake of recollection, linear thinking actually becomes higher consciousness thinking, which we in linear thinking would think of as, gee, that's magical and mystical. It's just magic that happened. It was a miracle. Well, it's not a miracle. That's the way things happen. We just were forced out of our comfort zone of seeing things and experiencing things in a linear fashion. That's why we perceive karma to happen as it is. We perceive karma to happen, so, well, you know, I shot Harry, and so somebody's got to shoot me in order to balance things out. All that is you're functioning in the lower levels of consciousness. So you're attracting everybody to you that has the same level of consciousness, that also has this level of energy. So, you know, I make the equation, you're living on a 64-story high-rise apartment building. And if you're on the 3rd floor, which is real low energy, and you're shooting people and robbing liquor stores and all that stuff, so is everybody else. That's what you do on the 3rd floor. If you want to get off the 3rd floor and get out of that atmosphere, clear your chakras and zip on up to the 4th floor. Eventually get to the penthouse. But you've got to do the work to get you cleared. You don't get to leave the neighborhood until you qualify with the landlord to get to the next level of condos. But we determine that by the amount of baggage that we continue to carry. It's all our choice. So when we get enough of our emotional baggage cleared, instead of the energy going down, it starts splitting. And we start to begin to experience, this is wisdom, this is unity. This is an average of all of these. So higher consciousness doesn't have to look at all these. They don't have to go into all of our tetrahedrons and interview each experience that we've had. They can just look at this guy here and say, oh, well, yeah, no, you're not ready. You're not done.
More dues.
Yeah, this is the average. This is the computer average of all that we have collected within us. Okay? I love the hush over the crowd when we get to this one. What? But we don't store emotions here. These 3 are our intellectual chakras. We store emotions here. This is the last one we store. We store here anything to do with heartbrokenness, disappointment, grief, sorrow, all right here. This is the transitional chakra. This is what we are striving to graduate to in 4th density. This is love and compassion. This is what we are supposed to be learning. And how we learn that is become aware of ourselves, what baggage we are carrying, seriously work to clear that baggage so our consciousness can come up to this level so that we can do 4th density work. Now, it's just like school. You know, if you're going into the 4th grade, you're not expected to know everything that there is to know in 4th grade. You're just supposed to learn all your 3rd grade stuff so you can do 4th grade work. Same thing. That's what we're doing. Your consciousness rises as you clear this emotional baggage. It's only the emotional baggage that is keeping you suppressed in lower levels of consciousness. When I say you, I mean the Earth, all of the population of Earth. Every person that comes to you is a messenger. They're bringing you a message about you about something in here that you've stored that you need to get rid of. And you know it's a message because you feel the emotion. Or you feel the vibrational energy. Or you go, oh, I just feel a 4.5 today. That was a 4.5 message. You can create your own scale if you want to. It's easier just to call them emotions.
So sometimes when we meet a person and take an instant dislike, is that a message that we don't want to deal with it? It's like, get out of my face, I don't want to deal with this.
Yeah, it's a message. You got something inside of you needs to be getting rid of.
Oh, bloody hell.
It's never a message about them. You may be bringing them their own message unknowingly, but the message is always about something inside of you. You don't need a message about them. You can't heal them. You can only heal yourself. And the process of healing yourself is the only way that you can get healed. You are the only one that put it in there. So you're the only one that can get rid of it. So you can go to all the witch doctors or magic healers that you want to, and they may be able to smooth your energy, which they can do. They can smooth your energy. They don't clear a thing, but they'll smooth the energy, and for a little while you'll feel better. But you have got to go in and do the work to heal. But now that you know this, you know that it's up to you. So you can no longer say, well, I didn't know that. Now
Thanks, Dean.
That's the way. That's the way the system works. That's the way the Creator experiences itself. That's the way you raise your consciousness. And the benefit to you is twofold. As long as you remain unawake, and as long as you remain in unconsciousness, then you'll stay in pain and suffering. And pain and suffering is our motivator. Something's not right. I don't feel right. You don't act right. You don't receive the benefits. You can't see the beauty of the world because of the baggage that you're carrying in emotional baggage in the lower chakras.
I've got a question. Can our perceptions of the individual chakras change over time?
As you raise your consciousness, as you clear the emotional baggage, your perceptions do change.
But can our perceptions of an individual chakra change?
No. The chakras are a vibrational range of energy, and there is a range that literally, there is a range within that range that you will fall. But to change the characteristics of that chakra, no. It's the same for everybody. And we all have exactly the same amount of consciousness that is allocated to us. Nobody has more, nobody has less. That's what makes the system work so well. 100% of potential consciousness will get you to 100% the same experience that everyone else has. As you clear your emotional baggage and allow the intelligent energy to rise, and eventually allow intelligent infinity to come down, you will have exactly the same type of experiences that everyone else will have at that level. At the first major breakpoint on the scale is at 20% of potential consciousness, of available consciousness. And it's the same for everybody. Below that level, you're living in emotions. You're living in pride and fear and guilt and shame and despair, and they're stacked. They're literally arranged, and they're stacked the same for everybody according to the range of vibrational energy that they are. Above 20%, you go up to 49.9%. In that range, you're dealing essentially with reason and rationale. You're still very much linear thinking, but you're not living in the emotions, from 20 to 49%. At 50% of potential consciousness, which is the same for everybody, you will experience love. And you will transition from your requirement of thinking in a linear fashion to this type of thinking. It happens for everybody. You don't have to flip another switch. You don't have to take a magic potion. Love potion number 9 won't help. When you hit 50%, you will have the same experiences that everyone in history and everyone else in the world experiences. Now, the break point between 49.9 and 50% is significant because only 4% of the population ever makes it to 50%. Yes, sir.
Time out. I have a question. The energy radiates from the heart, but love is the one above the heart.
This is a valve.
Well,
This is
right.
a valve. This is sending and receiving information through this valve. These are valves that control the amount of energy that comes down that far.
Right.
If you've got significant blockage, say hypothetically in the second chakra, and an example that I like to use are the Nazi soldiers that ran the concentration camps.
Right.
Almost without exception, they were in orange ray energy or second chakra energy. Now, what sufficient blockage that brings your energy down to this level does is it creates desire. When we experience desire, it is an indication of the level of energy that we are functioning from and attracting. So their desire was the sexual gratification that seeing people tortured and murdered did. And so all that they were doing was responding to their energy distortions. They were behaving according to where their consciousness level was. As we clear that emotional baggage, our consciousness level comes up. And we may still behave badly, but it's at a higher consciousness.
Not as bad.
It's not as bad, it's a different type of behavior.
Classic behavior.
Just as you clear your emotional baggage and your consciousness comes up to here, then you begin to function with love and compassion. But only 4% of the population experiences love. At 54%, you experience unconditional love. 0.4% of the population ever makes it to 54%.
And again, like we discussed the last time, when you're talking about love, we're not talking about a husband, wife, or a mother, child, or that, not that kind of love. It is a
complete change in your perceptions of the world.
Okay.
And it is what most identifiable, because you, again, the way that it works is it just doesn't all of a sudden you just step over the line and you're now at 50%. You have a median range, and your emotional level works like a wave function. So you will have periods of experiencing that feeling of love and that ability to move out of linear thinking before your consciousness level, which is measured by the median line, crosses that point. Okay?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Say, hypothetically, that I have something in those bottom 3 chakras and I'm depressed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I go to a doctor and I say I'm depressed and she gives me antidepressants.
Mm-hmm.
Is that good or bad, or should I try to work through?
If you're not ready to deal with that, to release that emotions, it's good because it keeps you functioning. But all it does is mask the messages that you're getting. Every emotion, every mood is usually an accumulation of one or more emotions. So a mood is an emotion too, which also needs to be cleared or processed. But they're emotions that group together usually to form a mood. But every emotion is a message to you that there is something inside of your energy system that needs to be gotten rid of. It is much easier, it's much better just to get rid of it. You feel the emotion, you get rid of it, and it's gone. That's how you get out of depression. That's how you get out of mental illness. That's how you get out of any condition that is keeping us from reaching higher levels of consciousness. Healing occurs as you raise your consciousness. Healing is a byproduct You heal physically, emotionally, and mentally as your consciousness rises. Can't help it. It's just a byproduct. Because you don't have the baggage that's hindering your energy system anymore. Physical illnesses that we experience them geographically according to where our energy is blocked.
So you just release it, say, to the earth.
If you can do that, that usually doesn't work. What you do in traditional meditation, okay, is first of all you spend 30 years in a monastery. And you develop your concentration and awareness, which is what meditation does. Meditation in and of itself is a tool to help you develop your concentration and awareness. And through that concentration and awareness, you become sensitive to exactly what we're talking about. And through your awareness, you are able to release that. And it is that simple. However, the 30 years in a monastery is a hindrance to most people. Okay? And all of what we teach in the book, all of what we teach in the classes, does the same thing as 30 years in a monastery. It releases the emotional baggage quickly and directly. And that's why we emphasize learning to talk to your higher self, because your higher self is you. It knows how you've stored all this energy. It knows what you need to work on first to get rid of. And your higher self says, okay, do that one. And you get rid of that one. And then, okay, do that one. And get rid of that one. And you knock these things off. And you miss the 30 years in the monastery. Now, meditation is a required companion to that. Because what meditation does is it teaches you how to manage your energy. As you release this emotional baggage, the energy that you were using to hold that baggage in place becomes available to do more work. And so it becomes an upward spiral. The more work you do, the more energy that you have, the faster the process goes. So your meditation practice helps you learn to manage that energy to make that even more efficient. Okay? So we ended up on a little sales tool there. I didn't intend that, but that's how it works. That's why we do what we do. Because it expedites the process. It provides healing. It raises your consciousness. If you want to cure the evils of the world, change people's behavior, all you got to do is raise their consciousness. Help them. Help them heal themselves.
How do you do that? They're not willing to do it.
That's the hickey. They got to be ready. They got to be ready.
Dean, could you elaborate a little bit about, and you hit, I don't know if it was 500 or 540, where ABC causality kind of goes out the window, and how you would experience that? I mean, is it a... Your perceptions change. As Don was asking, your perceptions of everything changes. And a real good example is a Zen example, actually. And most people will look at a rose, and the span of a life bloom for a rose, it begins as a rosebud. And it expands into a full bloom for the rose. And then it wilts and dies. Now, in linear thinking, you would perceive that as a beginning and an ending, as a process. And most people would identify, well, the wilted rose really isn't as pretty as the full bloom rose, and the full bloom rose probably isn't as pretty as the rosebud. But in actuality, it is not a linear process. The rosebud is a perfect rosebud. The rose in bloom is a perfect rose in bloom. The rose in wilted form is a perfect rose in wilted form. They're not the same thing. It's this. It's perception. You can appreciate the beauty of what now we perceive to be a linear process. And this, certainly, some things are more desirable in that process than others. But each aspect of each moment has its own perfection, has its own beauty. And that is what happens when you experience
50% consciousness. That's what happens when you experience nonlinear thinking. And it's very desirable. I highly recommend it. Stop on the way home at Walgreens and get some. Okay?
I like that. Even though I know I'm getting fluffier and saggier, I'm still perfect.
You are. In this moment, everything is perfect. And that's what Eckhart Tolle says. In this moment, everything is perfect. Because it is not part of a linear plan. This moment is its own moment, and it is perfect for all that it offers. It may not be what you thought would be perfect in the flow of things. Certainly you may have preferences. If I like the rosebud better than the wilted rose, you can have preferences, that's okay, but you can see the beauty of the wilted rose. Because it is a perfect wilted rose. And it is a change in perspective. It is a shift in positionalities and perspectives. You can appreciate people that are having difficulty for where they are. And very quickly, you can start introducing wisdom in that. One of the hazards of being at this level of consciousness, at the 50% to 54% level of consciousness, is you're overwhelmed with love and compassion, so you have great difficulty in allowing people to experience their pain and suffering, which they need in order to advance themselves.
You try to fix them.
Hmm?
You try to fix them.
You're trying to fix them. Exactly right. But you don't have to do that. Because they are perfect in their pain and suffering. Is what they need at the time in order to advance, to grow. Okay?
That's almost a relief.
Huh?
It's almost a relief.
It is a
Because
relief.
if the tendency is to try to help and fix, it's like, oh, okay, just butt out.
If someone is starving, that doesn't mean don't feed them.
Right.
But you don't have to manage their life for them.
It's one thing to know that though, but it's another to really feel it. And that
That's what
helps-
happens when you
that
cross over that
helps you
50% mark.
to feel it.
Yeah, that's what happens. When your consciousness rises, your perceptions change. And it is something that you have to experience. You cannot intellectualize it. That's the crossing point. That's the huge break point between rational and reason 49.9% and 50%. And you know when you cross that mark. Because you feel it. Your perceptions change. You just, wow. What worried you yesterday couldn't be a worry today.
More peace.
Much more peace, absolutely. Absolutely. And you keep going, and at 60%, that's when you experience peace and calm. Joy and peace.
Dean, thank you. We're new and we didn't know how long it would be and we have to be somewhere else.
That's
So
fine. I
please
rambled,
forgive us for
you know, so
walking out.
that's fine. Thank y'all for coming.
Namaste.
We'll do this again in 2 weeks with a furthering topic. So anybody have any questions before we conclude?
Where do we get that book you have for sale, Dean?
Right here, David. On Amazon or Kindle. Yeah, Enlightenment Plain and Simple, which gives you multitudes of processes and mechanisms in how to learn to talk to your higher self. And it's available on Kindle or Amazon, and it's called Enlightenment Plain and Simple. Okay? Thank y'all for coming. We'll do this again in 2 weeks, and I'll figure out something else to blabber about.
What's the topic going to be? And what are we going to talk about next time?
Huh?
You know, what is it going to be next time?
It'll be continuation. There's more to this. Yeah. Yeah, there's more.